We'll see how it's made.
Okay. Yeah. And give them a slap when you're there. 2 minutes late, gentlemen.
Apologies.
Have we got everyone from Chalmers Street?
Yeah, everyone's here.
Melbourne, Kev, James.
Yep.
Okay. All right, cool. Well, if that's the case, then I just want to quickly, we'll get this done. It's not overly hard or it's not going to take too long, but we want to make sure that everyone knows what's happening because pretty soon we're all going to be administering Lync and we all need to be able to do certain things. So as part of the Lync rollout, we've been given some control of Lync. Now, unfortunately, the way the Lync works, well, the way that Windows 2012 works, is there's a thing called RBAC rules, which is role-based administration, which is pretty limited in Lync. There's kind of like 3 roles. There's a viewer, there's a basic admin, and then there's the back-end admin. So none of us have the back-end admin rights, but we all have the rights to do some sort of basic admin tasks for users, which removes the need for us to go to ESD for pretty much anything SIP related going forward. So as part of, I guess, Microsoft's shift as well is that the Lync control panel, which is what I'm assuming everyone can see now on screen. This is the Lync control panel. And this is where you'll be doing all of your functions. So this is basically a web address that you need to have Silverlight installed in order to view, which is a pain, but that's the way it is. So,
sorry to interrupt. It's just Internet Explorer, or will it work on?
No, it'll work on anything that takes Silverlight, but I've noticed that Chrome, being Chrome, is a bit shit. But Safari's fine. Firefox seems to work okay. But one of the key things that we'll touch base on is is when you're creating things like pins and stuff like that, is be able to link it to your Outlook client or your Mail client, which is pretty important. So without messing around too much more, this is the basic interface. You've obviously got some menus down the left-hand side. You guys won't be playing in anything else apart from users, really. You probably won't even be able to see this response groups, but that's probably the only other thing that you will be able to touch, and potentially I'll give people access to that. I'm not 100% sure because the response group stuff is for hunt groups and things like that, which we'll talk about at the end. Anyway, users, this is where we enable users, this is where we modify users. So pretty important to note here at this level, if you enter a search criteria, say if I search my name, it should find it, but it won't find anyone that's not SIP enabled. So when you need to find a SIP enabled user, if you search here, you won't find, you'll find them. If you want to find someone that isn't SIP enabled, you won't get any results back. And that's where you need to first and foremost go and SIP enable the user. So to do that, you're going to come over here and click this little drop down and click enable users. And this brings to our next screen. And this is where we can add users and SIP enable them. And unfortunately, it's a bit of a tedious process because one of the things that you need to know when you're creating or when you're SIP enabling a user is that it searches the entire forest. Or guys, can you just mute, please? It's a bit loud. This does a search across the entire forest for AD objects. So if I was just to come in here and select a user, give me a user.
Who wouldn't have?
Yeah, a web user. And mute Brooker. Now, if I just hit find now, it's going to crash because it's going to take way too long to find anything with that that comes up for that search. So the best way to get around that, and as stupid as this sounds, is to come down here and to basically put a custom filter. And I find that if you just select last name, it'll do the job. So here you go, Naomi Brooker. She's got a couple of accounts. We obviously want to make sure we select the main account, which would be the Weber Shandwick one, and you basically can come in here and click OK. So once you've got your user in here, this is where you can, basically do some assign some rights to it and go from there. So the first thing that we need to do is assign it to a pool. So if you look at these pools basically refer to Lync servers. So as you can see, we've got, I think 6 Lync servers out there in total, and there's 2 Sydney servers. I've been instructed by Global to only use one server, and that is SID EDC LYC001. So I don't quite know why, and it's a question I'm going to ask later on. It seems to me like load balancing would be a good thing, but for the time being, we're going to play ball and do that. So every user will be put, on this server. So once you select that, you then need to select the SIP ID for that user. As you all know, the SIP ID is different from our mail address. Everything is ap.corp.ipgnetwork.com. So the easiest way to do that and to kind of avoid issues with conflicts of names in most cases is to simply select this option here. So that will select the first name dot last name, and then you can from there select ap.corp.ipgnetwork.com. Now Mitch brought up something to me the other day when I was speaking to him and saying that some people there'll be some duplicate names, and if that is the case, you can modify it by coming down here and entering something different. 99% of the time, though, you're going to be using this radio box to enter the username. Basically, from here, from this window, you can configure everything. I'm just going to show you. I'm going to leave it at that for the time being. Pretty important to note this telephony option. That refers to the capabilities of the Lync client. At the moment, it's selected as PC to PC only, and that's fine. I'm going to leave that because I want to modify this user account next to enable enterprise voice and conferencing and things like that. So I'm going to hit enable on that one. It's going to save the change.
Sorry, hang on. Last question. In terms of duplicate names, will it prompt you at this point to say that that account is already there?
Yes,
okay.
It will.
So we don't have to check AD first to make sure that...
It won't let you. So
right. Cool.
As soon as there's a duplicate name, it'll play up. So I can see my user that I've created here, or I've SIP enabled here, Naomi Brooker. So I'm going to come in, and what I want to do is I want to edit that unit. So I'm going to come in here and go show details. Pretty odd thing, but one thing to note, you can't right-click and go edit because of Silverlight being the dream it is. So under here, show details. And you'll notice that this is a pretty similar screen to what we saw before. So you can configure a user completely from to SIP enabling and to enable a number and the conferencing stuff from that previous window. But I just wanted to show you the modification. So if I want to enable enterprise voice, I'm going to firstly come down here and select enterprise voice. More or less, we're only ever going to use PC to PC and enterprise voice as the options for our users. I can't think of any other reason why to have audio video disabled, but if there is ever any requirements, we can probably play around with it. But come down here and select enterprise voice, and you'll see that we've now got a couple of new options available to us. Really importantly, when you're entering the number, this is going to be their external number. You've got to make sure you put it in this format. So rather silly, you've got to type in tel : and then the full address, which is, I'm trying to find the plus button here. Function. Yeah. All right. So in comes the full address. So 9538. I'm just going to give her a dummy number for the time being. So that's her number, and then we've got to come down and select the dial plan. So the dial plan is pretty important depending on location. So we've basically broken these up. We've got 5 dial plans in Sydney. This one here was the initial testing dial plan, but the others are broken up via regions. So central and west, central, east, north, east, and south central. So what that refers to is area codes. So central east is New South Wales. Northeast is Queensland. South central is not LA. It's Melbourne or Victoria and Hobart. And finally, central and west is Adelaide and Western Australia and South Australia. So obviously in this case, we're going to come and select Central East because it's a Sydney number. And then we're going to select the voice policy. There's only one voice policy. The name's not great. I'm going to get it changed to something more relevant, but this is the one. So SID, IPG, AP, SID, 100 char, cheers. Again, I'm going to get that changed to something more generic.
Just quickly, Dino, sorry man, just to roll back a few.
Yeah.
With the line URL, the number that you're creating, how do we know it's available and all that kind of
This is a good question because Lync doesn't make it easy for you to know.
Yeah. Like if you were to try and save this, would go, hey, this has already been used. Yeah.
If there's a number that's already been assigned, you won't be able to assign it. But I'll show you in a minute. We'll do a filter. We'll look for individual numbers. You can't see from this screen. It's rubbish. But so we need to me and Nathan need to probably think about how we're going to, put some process around that. It's probably going to involve Confluence.
Yeah, I was going to say, man, you could probably get some kind of scripting thing to.
Yeah, it's kind of nasty, unfortunately, but yeah, I mean it's a good point. The next one, there's not too many more important ones to select. There's 2 more options that we need to select, and one of them is the conferencing policy. So depending on what you select here will depend on what the user can do in Lync. So, what we're doing is we're giving everyone the bells and whistles, so that's the very bottom option, which is the meeting with AV and dial-in conf. Now, recently, Connell had a job actually for Rebecca down in Adelaide, and she didn't have any dial-in details, and that was because her account was set up with just PC to PC, and it was set up with the default policy. If we had to come down and selected this option here, that's when it populates the dialing policy based on the pool that you're in. So if she was in the Omaha pool, she'd get some American numbers. She's in the Sydney pool, she's going to get some Sydney numbers. So select that one. That'll also allow you to do things like recording, which is what Ralph is doing now.
Is it going to cost us more in licensing to
No.
Okay.
No.
So why wouldn't we put all of them, give them all? Is it just to simplify it so that the user...
The only reason you wouldn't is if you had an intern or something like that.
Totally, yeah.
So for interns, you might not even give them an external number. I mean, I don't know. That's, again, it's purely up to the business how they want to deal with that. I think a lot of the fight that we've got at the moment is with, Avaya, we've got extension numbers, you've got to fight for, it's probably going to be less of an issue with totally. As long as you have enough physical numbers in the number range, you just give them a number and off you go. Okay, you've got a couple others here, client version policy. There's nothing really to configure here. The PIN policy, there's nothing to configure, but the last one is this one, which is, sorry, I'll just go back here. It's the external access policy. So, again, we'll do the bells and whistles. What this does, just to explain it briefly, guys, is that anyone that uses Lync internally can federate with users externally if they've enabled federation in their domain. So by selecting this option, we can federate with external Lync users. And an example of that is, in my link, I've got a pillar from Triforce who I've here somewhere. Up the top. There he is. So he's offline now, but I can bug him. And again, that's probably something that, other Lync users can. But one of the things that's really important to note is, I'll offer that to the business, but if the other companies don't have it, then we can't do it. So we can have it enabled as much as we want, and off we go. You can see there's some other policies. These don't apply to us. This is more, I guess, this looks like a lot of testing stuff from Omaha. The mobility pool, persistent chat. We don't need that stuff. Persistent chat basically refers to it's a feature of Lync that allows all Lync messages to be saved. It's kind of like I don't know. It's probably more for things like law firms and things like that need advanced security and the like. But we don't really have that requirement. So as you can see, it's pretty simple to set up a user, select those policies, and you commit that. And that's more or less what we're going to do with user accounts when we're enabling them. Now, you're probably going to find that one of the things we're going to have to do initially is to move some accounts. So I'll quickly, it's very simple. So, I'll find someone, Stuart Beck, our good mate in Adelaide. He's probably sitting on the Omaha pool, I'm assuming, because a lot of the Adelaide guys, anyone who's got Lync now, they're going to be sitting on the Omaha pools. As you can see here from the register pool, he's on Omaha, he's got PC to PC. So if I wanted to, change that, I could come in here again. I can quickly change this to enterprise voice. It's important to note, you can't change your pool from here though. So when you want to do that, you've got to come over to this action tab. And you'll see there's a couple of options down here, but what we're going to select is here, move users to selected pool. And we're going to come down and select the appropriate pool, which is CDDC LYC 001. So we can do that. It's going to briefly kick them out of their Lync client. It doesn't take long to move users across, but you get the idea. And again, if I wanted to go in and if I was ready to enable Stuart Beck for enterprise voice and had a phone number and ready, I could go in there and make those changes, put him in the appropriate dialing plan, and off he goes. Here, we'll just wait for this to finish. The last thing that we want to do is to set a PIN. So pins are used, there's a couple of ways for users to log into the handsets around the place. And that's via your extension and a PIN, or to log in with your full SIP username, and then your obviously the appropriate domain, and then your username and password. We're still debating the best way to do that because there's some more advanced features if you log in with your full thing, but it's also a hell of a lot easier to log in with your extension. And it also means if we were to, for some reason we had to, log a whole bunch of phones in, we could reset PINs and we could log everyone in. If, for instance, we made a change on a weekend with every switch out and had to log people back into their phones, which we shouldn't have to do, but we did, we wouldn't be able to do it if they logged in with their local account. But anyway, to set a PIN is pretty straightforward. Again, come in, set PIN. And at the moment, I don't think any PINs have been set. So, I set the ones for you guys, kind of automatically here. So as you can see, you got two options, automatic or manual. I would select automatic in most cases. And again, this is probably going to be the level 1 guys doing this all the time. Click OK here. It's going to come up with this. Now, I can come here and show the PIN so I know what the deal is, but I've also got this option down here to open email. And I don't have a mark on it, so I'm just using a test PC. But if you click this link, it's going to bring up your mail thing and you can just send it straight to the user. So, one of the things, I guess, for the level 1 guys, we're going to make sure that, you're using a browser natively on your Mac as opposed to your VM, so it will allow you to send emails to and from using this tool. But, fundamentally, that's Stuart's PIN. So if I had given Stuart a phone number, he could log into one of the phones using his extension and this PIN. So I'll just close that. Realistically, that's pretty much, all it takes. As I said, there is some stuff around response groups, and I'll quickly show you this stuff just to give you an idea of what happens. So, what we're going to be doing is creating some things called hunt groups, and that's going to be things like reception. We're going to have hunt group for service desk, and that's what I'm going to kind of show you right now. So, we can't, unfortunately, I can't create that. Again, that's where the RBAC rules come in and stop this, and I don't think any of you guys will have this option, but I can, for instance, come here and show you the workflow of this hunt group that we've set up. So it actually takes you across to a different page as such, and I can come and, this is where all of our hunt groups are going to sit. So eventually we're going to have quite a few for all the receptions, and, potentially even some other teams might want a hunt group or whatever. And you can see what a hunt group is. It's basically a SIP ID or SIP ID associated with a number. So I'm going to come and edit this, and it gives you a bit of an understanding of how the hunt groups will work, but then I'll tie it back in with groups and workflows and stuff like that. So you can see here that there's our number that we set, and this will actually become our service desk number at some stage. And you've got some options, obviously English. You've got an option here for a welcome message. So basically what happens is it's a lobby type function where when you call that number, it's going to be answered by a lobby. So you've got an option to go use text to speech, or we can use a recording, which I'm sure we will at the time when we launch this. You've got business hours, and during these business hours, it'll read this, or play this message. If it's outside of that, it'll forward to voicemail, which we're working on as far as having that going to a few different people. Again, you've got holiday periods, and you've also then got the queue which it goes to. So, again, we'll create a bunch of queues based on different sites. But, essentially when you associate a queue to a hunt group, that's the queue it's going to call when the number's placed, and it hits the lobby, and then it'll place a call. So I'm going to cancel that, so we're not going to make any changes. But if I come back to my Lync control panel, I'll quickly show we've got a couple of queues created here. So level 1, level 2, it's pretty basic. Obviously level 1 guys will be in level 1, level 2 guys will be in level 2. If you want to have a quick look inside of that, we've basically just got a name. What you've got then is inside this queue, you've got a group associated. We'll talk about groups in 2 seconds. And this is what, this is basically the behavior of that, of this queue. So your timeout period is 15 seconds, so it'll ring level 1 phones, in this case, for 15 seconds before it'll forward it to another queue. Now, you can obviously select to forward to voicemail, you can forward to SIP address. There's a few different options. But the idea of our hunt group is we want it to ring level 1 for a bit, then it's going to blanket ring level 2, and if no one answers at the end of that, then it's going to go to voicemail. So you can sort of see that from that workflow. I'll quickly show you the level 2. So this is obviously assuming that, the call from that hunt group's from level 1 to come to level 2. And that's going to say 15 seconds forward to voicemail. At the moment I'm testing mine, but of course that'll be a more generic one. Obviously, just quickly within the groups, groups, it's pretty similar to a security group at this level, but, I'll just use the silver light. If I go into my details, basically you can see there's not much going on. I've just got myself in now. I'm level 1 as well, so but you can add your users in here. For instance, for reception at R&H, you probably have the 2 girls in this. If they're going to have a hunt group, and that's going to be that queue, and then you forward on to voicemail, or potentially forward it on to Anna Bird or something like that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Really, it's not really too difficult, but it's there, and you guys can start using it. So in the infrastructure section of Confluence, I have to log back in.
Ego brings 1, 2, 3.
Ego.
Sorry.
So in here you've got a link section, and I've got to fill this out a lot more, but in here's some URLs. So the URL that you want is the link control panel. I suggest everyone get on and have a go. It's a pretty ugly URL, but get on, log in. Log in with your standard credentials, not your admins. If there's an issue with that, let me know. I log in with my standards. I think you can log in with your admin, but you will have less access. Also, too, within this link section, I've got some very basic instructions on the link control panel, and I'll be populating this with a little bit more information probably tomorrow. But this is kind of going through what I've done here. So have a look if you're unsure, but I mean, it's pretty straightforward, and I'm sure that people aren't going to mess this up. Well, I hope people aren't going to mess this up, because it's pretty easy. Any questions, guys?
Yep, I'll go on.
Better on the 60. Yeah, you have your better. So what you actually do.
Got that, yeah.
Careful, Will. Yeah.
I was going to ask, the option between logging in with your SIP account or your extension and PIN,
Yeah.
that's only for handsets, is it?
Handsets, yeah.
So,
Some handsets don't have that capability.
not everyone gets handsets though, is that still a discussion?
That's still to be determined, but the one thing that will be static is there'll only be one handset. So once we know what handset's going to every company, then we'll know very specifically what's going to go in there.
And we'll probably make a call on what what logging method we use, I'm assuming. Because when you log into, for instance, some of the phones we're looking at, you have some calendar features to join meetings and things like that.
Okay.
But at the same token, we're also struggling with our ability to look up Lync contacts in the Lync directory, because it actually wants to pull it from your contacts and from everywhere else but Lync.
Right.
So, we're still not sure of the best way to
So
go.
it's only for your local contacts, not looking at that.
Yeah.
Look up.
Correct.
Okay.
Does someone else have a question?
Yeah, just a quick one.
Yep.
Deleted AD accounts, does that automatically delete SIP accounts as well, or how does it all work?
Well, it's all bound, everything's linked into your AD account. So
Okay,
if you delete an AD account, then the SIP account will go. So that should, in theory, clear up URIs or phone numbers.
Awesome.
But if you disable a user, it won't. So that's something you probably know. It might even be something we need to add to to the checklist to remove a URI when a user finishes. Again, we still need to work out the process of how we do that, because it is, unfortunately, it's not like... Can you mute, mate? Sorry?
Let you...
Yeah. I was just saying, at the moment with site admin, you can check num extensions. Here, I'll show you an example of doing a search. So again, using our filters, I can come in here and select line URI and have something saying starts with, and we know that we've got to do this. So I want to find everyone who's got, that number range. So it's obviously going to be a few people, because we've all got that. Eventually it's going to give me some results. As you can see, it's not the fastest console in the world. Here's our results. So look, there's a few people. There we are, all cool. But I can't see the numbers, and I don't have an option to
columns or...
edit the columns. I've got nothing. So it's ugly. I don't really know why Microsoft has done it that way. And
I'll have a look at searching where that's quite a number.
yeah, it's ugly. So I mean, that it's pretty much useless to us at this level, because if we've got, for instance, Chalmers Street, might have 400 people with different numbers all over the shop. You're just not going to be able to search using this. So yeah, we need to think about that and probably just have literally a Confluence table.
Web help desk might be able to search by same thing, but actually show the numbers in that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, we can check that out.
I'll play with that tomorrow and have a look.
Yeah.
Hey, Dino.
Yeah.
Are there like number ranges for each company? Are we going to be covering number ranges per company like we did for Avaya, or is it going to be sort of
like you and Quill fucked up for Avaya?
yeah?
To answer that seriously, yes, part of this whole process over the next 3 months, what we're probably going to be doing is acquiring a whole stack of temporary number ranges, which we'll port people onto when we're migrating them onto Lync, and then at the end of the project, we'll actually migrate them all back to their existing number ranges. So we'll just be forwarding in the background, so external users won't know any different. But in that process, we're going to be speaking to all the business stakeholders, like the MDs of each individual group, and we will be reorganising all the number ranges back into company groups and adding more if we need to add more.
Sounds good.
One other thing, whilst I've got the the microphone, is this is probably one of the first times since I've worked for this company that we've managed to get Global to give us a decent level of access to, server admin stuff. So can I ask or tell everyone not to fuck with it? I don't want to see stupid naming conventions. I don't want to see stupid jokes happening in there. This is a serious tool, and this is a big sort of stepping stone for us to get full-blown Exchange admin access, AD admin access, and all of those things. If I see stupid shit going on in here, and I get pulled up from the regional and the global guys in London, you'll get your ass handed to you. That's all.
Sounds
All right, cool. One last thing, while we've got everyone here, it's been around that we were talking about with Web Help Desk recently and assets. So there's a bit of a hiccup with Landesk that we're working through at the moment. Will, do you want to talk us through that?
Hang on, I'll just wrestle the microphone off, Nate. So basically the problem we're having is we've set Landesk now to hold on to records for, is it 90 days now, I think, rather than the 21 days that it was holding on to the machines for. So basically that means if we're reusing computer names, they're going to be 2 entries in Landesk for at least 90 days, for instance. Now the problem is when Web Help Desk syncs with Landesk, if Web Help Desk sees 2 machines with the same name, it won't pull either of them in. And that's where we've had issues with people building machines and then no assets appearing in Web Help Desk at all. And obviously, as part of the checklist, you can't close your job and complete it until certain statuses have changed and whatnot. So have we kind of set what we're going to do to change it, or?
I think what you suggested is
Yeah.
probably... Yeah.
All right. So basically, we've had a bit of a chat about how we're going to go kind of circumvent this. And pardon me, previously we had, during that last process meeting we had a couple of weeks ago, we'd said when every new machine gets a new computer name and you use the lowest available number, we're actually going to change that now to use the next highest in the chain. So, that could possibly mean the next one available is, 0, 100 kind of thing. And we're going to go from there and keep going up incrementally. And I think we figure once you hit to about, the 200 number, it's been, roughly it's been that 90 days, and then your earlier numbers that have been disabled are going to start dropping out of Landesk, and then we can recycle and head back to the start. And this is purely so that we can keep a track of assets that have been returned, as well as still having Web Help Desk pulling in the assets, like the new assets that are being imaged and deployed. Does it make sense?
And just on that quickly, if you are seeing that it's not being pulled into Web Help Desk, just check Landesk to make sure there's not duplicate names. If there is duplicates, then shoot me through the details of the one that shouldn't be in there and I can delete it.
Yeah, I mean, there is that workaround, but obviously we don't want to hit up Alex every 5 minutes to be just deleting names out of Landesk. So, if we use the next available incrementally, yes, we'll work up and we'll use a lot more computer names, but they'll clear themselves. And, as long as we're still disabling and deleting the names out of AD as and when they're not needed, we hit that, say, 200 threshold, we'll start again, there'll be a lot of numbers available for us to use again, but it just means they would have hopefully been removed from Landesk in that time frame.
All make sense, guys?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks, guys.